Welcome to the Weekly Gaming Blast, the podcast that brings you the latest gaming news unhinged. I'm Akibana Zero.
And I am RTG. Hello.
How's it going? You've shaved?
I have shaved more than I wanted to. My electric razor broke halfway through, so I had like full beard, pretty much nothing, and I was like, well, this won't do. So I kind of wet shaved the whole thing, and I don't like it.
Oh God.
But what are you gonna do? It's done. There's nothing I can really do about it. I wasn't gonna walk around with half a beard. That's just weird.
Well, I mean, you could start a fad. I don't know.
I'm not anime enough to pull off a fad like that, if I'm honest.
Your hair says otherwise. Pretty anime.
I don't know. It's pretty restrained in terms of style. It's just bright red. That's all.
Yeah, just take a slab of gel and just go like that, and you'll be anime in no time.
You do have a point. It's not. I'm not very far removed from being anime, am I? How are you? More importantly,
peachy. Yeah, no. I've been good. I've hopefully finally have a flat. At least I've put a deposit in, so yeah, we're gonna be good to go. Have new digs and hopefully new backdrops and all of that stuff. I'm gonna have a massive living room with plenty of space to do all my internet stuff. So yeah, that's gonna be exciting for myself and for the people watching.
Get yourself a green screen.
That I've been toying with that idea, but I first of all, I need it to make sense. I mean, I don't want to just slap on a green screen because, oh my God, it's so fancy,
Yeah, I'm making one, like when I move back to Brighton, I'm making it my first port of call to upgrade my entire streaming thing. So get myself a nice little frame and maybe a video. I'm not sure about video because when I stream, I look a mess normally. The only reason I look fairly presentable today is because I knew I had the podcast straight after a stream. But usually I look a mess when streaming, and I don't want the world to see that. But I will be upgrading my microphone though, definitely. That's most definitely on the cards.
Oh, get yourself a Blue Yeti. Those are awesome.
I haven't decided which one. I'll start shopping once I'm settled, I think. Once I'm in Brighton and settled. Because at the moment, I've got everything I need to stream. So I don't really need to worry about it yet. But once I'm down and in Brighton, my first port of call will be getting myself a decent mic.
Cool.
Because even if I don't get video recording equipment or my new frame or whatever, if I have a decent mic, if I have people over and we play local multiplayer, if I've got a decent mic, he'll pick up all of us.
All right.
Because at the moment I have a headset mic, so therefore my streaming is me. Unless I'm co-streaming and using the PlayStation party feature. But yeah, I'd like to stream with more people locally. So the best way to do that is to get myself a decent mic.
Yeah, I agree. A mic is probably, if anybody who wants to stream, I would definitely say mic is the most important thing that you can get starting off. Like if you were to buy one piece of equipment, that's the one you should get, a mic. Blue Yeti, Blue Snowball, these are both really, really solid. And the nice thing is that the Blue Snowball, as far as I know, works with a PS4 as well. So if you're streaming through your PS4, you just plug it into the USB drive and it works like a dream.
Thanks for that tip. I'll bear that in mind.
Tip for you and tip for everybody out there. So have you been playing anything this week?
I have, and I've been dying to talk about this game. I've kind of dropped little hints about as subtle as a house brick hints on Twitter that I've been playing it, but I've really wanted to talk about it. I've been playing Child of Light, which is a fairly old game.
Yeah.
I missed it on its first time round, and I really regret that now. It's a Metroid-style exploration game with JRPG turn-based battles, a beautiful watercolor-style aesthetic, and it's quintessentially fairy tale. It's like playing a living fairy tale. a moving fairy tale, because everyone speaks in rhyming couplets as well.
Oh.
All of the writing is in rhyming couplets. So, like, for instance, if you're in a village and you go up to a door that's locked, it will literally just say, "This is locked. I am not shocked," as the comment. And I'm like, the amount of time it must have taken to rhyming couplet an entire script of a game. But the thing which pleases me most about it, beyond the fact it's beautiful to look at, beautiful to listen to, and obviously the writing is just genius, is the fact that the combat is the closest comparison I can think of is Final Fantasy X's conditional time battle system. Essentially, once the battle starts, everyone is on this little grid, on this line. And once they reach a certain part of the line, they can pick an attack. And then the rest of the line is the time it takes to do the attack. But if a character is attacked when they're in the casting bit, they get interrupted, which knocks them back onto their main part of the line. So your attacks in real time can affect whether the enemy attacks next or you attack next. And every attack has a different casting length, so you can affect it that way as well. So to do a really powerful spell takes a while, but to do a simple attack takes a very short time. And you can be interrupted as well by the enemy if you're attacked during your casting phase as well. And there's other little things, like you've got this little orb that you have that I can't remember the name of. It's got some stupid name that you can use to freeze the enemy, and it's not freeze, kind of slow down the enemy's
timer,
kind of speed. So, for instance, if you are thinking ahead, you can freeze the next enemy that's due to get into the casting phase until one of your characters reaches the casting phase. Then you can cast a short attack, which means that both of them will be in the casting phase when that attack's done, and therefore they'll be interrupted. And you can do that with anything, including the bosses. So it leads to some really, really strategic battles when you have to really think about what you're going to do next, because it can really negatively affect you if you use an attack at the wrong time.
I like these really ingenious ways of doing turn-based combat, because turn-based combat has always traditionally been seen as your turn, then their turn, your turn, then their turn. But this is pretty cool. It kind of means that you can manipulate the turns. And that was something I really appreciated about Bravely Default with the Brave system, which allowed you to steal more turns in order to do more attacks. And that you could also manipulate that in a certain way to empower certain attacks. I always like these kinds of spins. So I'm definitely going to check it out. I also like that idea in rhyming couplets. That sounds pretty cool to do writing like that.
It is wonderful. And also the characters are really, really well fleshed out, so they actually feel like characters. And the other game, like I was trying to remember this whole description, another game that it reminds me of, Octopath Traveler.
Oh, yeah.
Because Octopath Traveler has the break system where you can actually break an enemy before they attack, which therefore puts them back. So it has a very similar system. I mean, the only thing with the break system in Octopath versus whatever you would call the system in Child of Light is that in Child of Light, they almost always, the enemy will attack you at least once during a battle, whereas in the Octopath one, you can make it so you never get attacked during a battle, if you're very clever about your attacks and when you do them. But yeah, Child of Light, I would thoroughly recommend it to anyone. It's one of the few games I've played, I can think of in the last couple of years, where I don't want it to end.
Oh.
I know it's gonna. I'm in the last third of the game. I know I am. But I think I'm way into the last third of the game. But I don't want it to end. I'm really enjoying playing it.
I think the last time I felt that way was with Persona 5. I just didn't want that game to end at all. And that just speaks volumes about the way, like, how much enjoyment you're getting out of it, right? And like the writing must be really good and everything. It's really, really solid. Very briefly, I've been playing. I played the Kirby demo, which, like I was telling you earlier, I'm kind of like falling into that camp. Like other people are saying that, oh, it's too easy and everything. But at the same time, like you said, it's not exactly a game that was designed for adults, right?
It's Kirby.
It's Kirby.
Kirby's always been sort of kind of like a lighter. I mean, one game I'd really recommend if you like Kirby, and you don't mind things being easy, is if you can track it down, and if you've got the console to play it on, Kirby's Epic Yarn is easily one of my favorite games on the Wii. Simply because it was so charming, and I didn't mind the fact it was easy, because it was just such a charming experience from beginning to end. And that's what Kirby is. It's just all out charm and cute. It doesn't need to be difficult. It's not Dark Souls.
No, it's not.
And the first journalist I see who does any sort of comparison between Kirby and Dark Souls, I will personally travel to where they live and slap them.
That is a threat, ladies and gentlemen, right over there.
I'm getting really sick of Dark Souls comparisons.
Frick the Dark Souls comparisons, seriously. But I will say that if there's one game that is apt to have that comparison, apparently, is Hollow Knight, which a lot of people are saying has like, they're saying it has remnants of this idea behind Dark Souls games. Just generally, though, the thing about Kirby is that I really like the little combinations that you can do with the NPCs that you can recruit on your journey. Like, you can do things like raise a sword, and then the NPC or your friend, if your friend's controlling, can light the sword on fire, which is pretty fun and interesting. But other than that, I've been carrying on with Skyrim on Switch. I've been doing my Let's Play of Nier, and I have to say Nier is really blowing me away. Such an amazing soundtrack, such amazing graphics, great atmosphere in general. I mean, you kind of feel like the game feels washed out. All of its colors are completely washed out, but it's done on purpose, and that adds to the whole feel of the game itself and to the story, because the story is like pretty dark as far as I can tell so far, and very grim. Right.
We've only just got into the podcast, and you've already listed 2 games that are on the top of my list of games I want to play. Persona 5, Nier Automata.
Persona, I would recommend in a heartbeat. Absolutely play that game. It's a blast. And speaking of blasts, we're going to do things a little bit differently here on the Gaming Blast, because, we like to experiment a little. So we're going to be talking about very few topics, but we're going to be a little more extensive and try and keep things short, so you don't have to feel like you need to spend an entire afternoon listening to us, particularly myself, because I know my voice isn't that charming. Right. So first topic in order, and honestly, most of these things we'll talk about today are controversies. We have the newly released, hotly discussed at the moment, Metal Gear Survive. Oh my god, that game is such a mess, I have to say.
It's rare that you can use the word dumpster fire to describe a game and it be wholly accurate. Well, Konami, what a mess you have made.
Here we thought that nobody could make a bigger mess than EA with Battlefront 2, right? I mean, nobody could have thumped it, right? But suddenly, Konami comes up and is like, hold my sake, please. Hold my sake, please. I think sake was more appropriate there.
Yeah, sake was more appropriate. Well, the thing is, the big problem is, it's more of a disaster, yes, but it's going to be less publicized. Because this game has made either a negative impression or no impression at all. It's not like Gamblefront 2, which made just a negative impression. Metal Gear Survive has flown under the radar for most people.
Right.
It's just the people that have had the misfortune of playing it aren't very happy. Which is an understatement, I think.
I think this is one of the few times I would actually recommend people to go to Angry Joe's channel and just watch his review and his outburst about this game. He has one short video where he has an outburst about some of the practices we will get into in a moment, but he also has a whole review, like the whole theatrical thing that he does. And I have to say that he paints the picture very perfectly with both videos, and it will give you an accurate idea of just how despicably bad this game is. But let's talk a little bit for a moment what one of the main problems. First of all, it's called a Metal Gear game. And what would you expect from a Metal Gear game, Ruben?
Tactical, espionage, action.
Tactical, espionage, action, meaning you would stealth around, sneak up behind enemies, snap their necks, toss them behind a dumpster or whatever, something like that.
Secret agents, nonsensical plots involving women that don't wear clothes because they breathe through their skin, Kojima.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still really irate about that. It's been years. But I expect, because Metal Gear always has been, essentially just espionage. It's been secret agents, terrorist organizations, stealth.
Convoluted stories.
Very convoluted stories involving patriots and loads of bollocks. But I expect a certain level of depth from a Metal Gear game. I'm not even a fan of Metal Gear, and I expect depth from a game that has that moniker.
We'll take all of those things now that we know about Metal Gear Solid Tactical Espionage and come in here, welcome Metal Gear Survive, which replaces all the tactical espionage and terrorist organizations, secret agents. There's a wormhole that opens up on top of Mother Base, whatever that's called after Metal Gear 5, and sucks everybody into it. And you're off into a world where you have these unicorn zombies that you are defeating in order to pick up energy called Kuban, something like that. And yeah, there's no stealth, no neck snapping, no nothing. You have a spear that you use to stab the zombies, or whatever they're called. And they're kind of unicorns because they have this red thing poking out of their head. And yeah, that's Metal Gear Survive.
I've heard that. Well, one thing we can establish from your description is that Metal Gear Survive has neither tactical aspects, espionage aspects, and I've seen gameplay of it. It doesn't even have action aspects. It's very, very shallow as a game. It's open world. I use that term very loosely to describe this. But that world has nothing in it. It's very barren. And the really funny thing, and I think it's actually Angry Joe who made this this comment, but I found it so funny. At the beginning of the game, you essentially see the helicopter fly off that has the cast from Metal Gear 5 in it, as if they're just going, bye, I don't want to be seen in this. And it's beautifully unintentionally tongue-in-cheek. And the game's just I haven't played it, and the reason I haven't played it is because zombie games, I don't really like them. I liked Resident Evil, and I still do like Resident Evil, let's be fair, but zombie games just bore me. The reason I liked Resident Evil is because it was atmospheric and it was horror, and it had genuine survival aspects, which Metal Gear Survive doesn't have beyond the feed me, I need water Survive, which I really hate. So I was never going to play Metal Gear Survive, and I've watched gameplay of it, and it looks awful.
It's just trying to cash in on that idea that people are into survive games, and they're like, we'll slap on the word survive, we'll slap on the Metal Gear name, and it's going to be fine, right? It's going to be fine. But
the problem is, survival games had their peak 2 years ago, with the whole Don't Starve and all of those games. Zombie games had their peak about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, with the whole Dead Rising, Dead Island, etc. So they have, and open world, that's really about 2 years old in terms of massive popularity, in that every game was open world at that point. It's kind of zoned in again now, although some games have come out as a... So basically, Konami have taken the Metal Gear name and added to it 3 outdated elements.
Exactly.
And called that a new game. Because survival, open world, and zombies are all old news now.
I absolutely...
All it would take... The only thing I think would be more egregious now is if post-release they added as DLC a Battle Royale mode. And I will put money on the fact that Konami will probably try that.
My money's on that as well, now that you mentioned that. I don't say this expression lightly, pushing boundaries. I don't like the way people say it a lot. But I will say that to me, Metal Gear is one of those game series that's synonymous with pushing boundaries. And I think it adds insult to injury to tack on these 3 outdated, as you said, genres into such a huge name with such an incredible pedigree that's sort of been very innovative on the storytelling side and the game system side and all of that. It's been a Kojima thing, and Kojima's always been this weird guy who's always been giving us some new ideas right and left, no matter how weird they were. And now suddenly we have this, which is a terrible bouillabaisse of mishmashed game concepts that used to be popular. It's kind of silly, but that's not all there is to it, right? There's other things that... Look at that.
I've been waiting for us to get to this. I really have. Go on.
So on top of all of this terry bad that has to do with Metal Gear Survive, Konami didn't stop there. They also went deeper. They were like, we're gonna copy what everybody else is trying to do right now to make money, and we're gonna throw loot boxes into the game. You're gonna have to get loot boxes all the time in order to make any significant progress in this game. Oh my God. Does it make it even worse?
They're doing what I would have called a couple of years ago doing a Nintendo. And what I mean by that is bringing about in a modern game something that a lot of other companies have been doing for a while. That's what I used to call doing a Nintendo, simply because Nintendo kept doing it. They kept being behind everyone else and then catching up later. Season passes, blah, blah, blah. Nintendo never did them. Then all of a sudden they were just like, oh, this seems like a good idea people have been doing for about 6 or 7 years. Boom, season pass. But Konami, oh, come off it. Loot boxes. Something that you have seen multiple companies put into games, and yet they are getting massive flack for it, and you decide to do it anyway.
But they didn't just stop there, did they?
No.
They didn't just stop there, because this is where we're getting into the most egregious part of this entire story. We're laughing, we're smiling right now, but deep inside us, we are fuming. Believe us here. They get this. If you want another save slot in Metal Gear Survive, you have to drop $10 to make another character in the game. Whew.
Yep, so if you've got if let's just say you're in a house share and you live with a couple other people and they want to make their own characters on Metal Gear, shame that.
They won't be able to do it.
Extra $10. See, I've been thinking about this quite a lot because I knew this was going to come up. And I've come up with a new term for this. And by this, I mean any occasion in which an additional sum of money has to change hands to unlock what is a basic feature in gaming. So, hard modes, to use an example, is what I would consider a basic feature in gaming. basically just big egregious things that them being missing from the main game is unthinkable. And I've decided to call those macro transactions.
Macro transactions. Why is that?
Because they're not microtransactions, because they're locking something significantly bigger behind a paywall than what microtransactions have come to be accepted as. Microtransactions are skins and stuff like that. Basically small little bits of money that you drop, say £2 or £3 that you drop just to get an additional skin, or like Street Fighter 5. Those are microtransactions. A skin's like £3.60 or something in Britain sterling. That's a microtransaction. £10 is definitely a macro transaction.
For a
Definitely.
save slot. For a freaking save slot.
For something that should be in the game to begin with. That's a macro transaction. In my opinion.
I would say that's a macro transaction because there is no other save slot you could have. You can only have the one when you buy the game. See, even MMORPGs, which give you a limited number of slots to make a new character, some of them do at least. If they want to encourage, if they want to make more money, they can. And you want to make another character, they're like, okay, you could buy another character slot, but they at least give you like what, 5, 6, 7, 8 character slots to begin with. Which, to be fair, for the average player, that's more than enough. But
I mean, I miss the old days of the PS1 when you were only limited to as many save slots as you had memory cards.
Exactly.
So if you had one memory card and you only had one game, that is 15 save slots for you. There you go. And then it got bigger with the PS2, and the PS3 then had internal storage, so that kind of ruins my analogy. But the PS1. I'm going to use my 90s analogies, which will tie into something we're discussing later anyway, so that's good. But Metal Gear Survive is an absolute disaster. I don't think anyone could defend it as not. Some people have, but they're...
I mean, let's just one last thing on this, because the fact that they're charging you for another, we're calling it a slave slot. That was a weird slip.
Imperialist pig.
Right. So, kill all the peasants. Right. So the fact that you, in order to make another character, you need to pay extra. It just says a lot about how much confidence Konami had in this title to begin with.
Yeah.
Is that we're not gonna sell this, guys. This is a bunch of garbage. This is not gonna sell.
Well, it's either that, it's either they had no confidence in the game, or they had so much confidence in the game. That's the two options we've got here. It's one or the other. They either didn't think the game would sell, so therefore they put a lot of things in it to get additional money as a live service, so it would get the money back that way, or they had so much confidence in the game, they thought, people will buy for additional game slots. This game's great. Everyone's going to love it. It's one or the other.
Well, that is for them to answer to us, or maybe just to themselves, because honestly, I don't know who would come up with a piece of garbage like this and confidently say, yes, I stand behind my product. Because I don't think they should. And if they are, I think they should check themselves somewhere. Right. So with loot boxes in mind, let's move on to the next topic, which is about loot boxes again, and the ESRB's stance on loot boxes. So we've been talking for a while now about how loot boxes are bad and they are not good for the industry and all of that. So the ESRB is like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to issue a specific label for loot boxes, DLC, and all of the other different add-ons that companies want to sell to you on top of the base game. That's an interesting step forward, but what is the caveat here, Ruben?
The caveat is that they are applying said label to any game that has any additional payment option in the game, which, given modern gaming, is every game.
Yeah, pretty much.
So therefore, they are not protecting anyone with this. They are not really doing anything with this. They are essentially just putting a "this has additional purchases" label on every game.
Which is going to be amazing.
And also, to clear it out for people that do not know, just in case people do not know, the ESRB is the Entertainment Software Rating Board that basically rates and regulates video games and the content and age ratings of video games. So I just wanted to clear that up just in case anyone doesn't know. And it's the American one as well. Our one is PEGI, the Pan-European Gaming Information.
Yes.
Yeah. So ours is PEGI, but yeah, that's the ESRB. And
Peggy, such a nice broad.
What? See, what an absolute waste of time.
It is an absolute.
That's all I keep coming back to with this their response to loot box. It's an utter waste of time.
Because it's a blanket statement. It's like, this has additional purchases. It doesn't clarify what these additional purchases are. They're not going to go as far as to say, this game has expansion passes. This game has loot boxes. This game has additional skins. This has that. They're not clarifying this. They're just saying additional purchases, and that's it. Which is going to be...
When, as we've already established, every modern game has additional purchases, pretty much. It's very, very rare you buy a game now that doesn't have some sort of DLC. And DLC comes under their label. So it's not going to make any difference apart from add an additional thing onto game boxes to obscure the art even more than it is already obscured by the stuff that's currently on there.
This is going to seem like an odd thing to feel for, to, like, you know, be concerned about, but I'm actually concerned about people working in game stores. I'm concerned that these parents who have no idea what's going on, they're just going to take this game in front of them and say, this has additional purchases. What does that mean? And that means that all of these people will have to know what each and every game has as additional purchases if they want to be able to provide good customer service. It's just gonna...
Well, to be fair, quite often people in game shops do know this sort of stuff anyway. But you're right, it does prove an additional thing they have to know.
Well, if Barbie's Magical Castle has additional purchases, I wouldn't know what they were, to be honest with you, and I probably know a little bit more than the average game store person.
Oh yeah, definitely. The amount of times I've got into a game shop and heard a employee give incorrect information to a customer, and I've been standing there thinking, I am not going to say a thing. Yeah, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. It's such a weak response.
And they're not all. Let's be fair. Not all game store employees are gamers. That's the other thing.
Oh no,
or gamers to the point where we're looking at forums and news articles all the time. But yeah. This is a blanket statement, which is really... It's such a minuscule step forward, Ruben. Such a tiny one. I mean, this is not what we needed. Of course, there's still a lot of action being taken. I mean, there's that guy in... there's that governor in... Is it governor? Is it? What is he? The Hawaiian guy, Chris Lee.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is the governor of Hawaii.
Yeah. And he's been very outspoken, and he's also kind of a gamer, according to Extra Credits. And he's not trying to push certain regulation. He's trying to push regulation, but he's trying to educate himself at the same time as to what it is that we, the gamers, feel is right or not, which is great. So just like Extra Credits said, I'm gonna also encourage you guys to go and check out his videos, because not videos of himself, but the interviews that he's done and all the speeches he's made on the subject, because he's definitely a guy who seems to be on our side, and that is a rare thing to find in any government anywhere in the world right now.
Which, speaking of, that leads very, very neatly into the next topic.
Oh.
So, yep, you're bracing yourself. I think I need to as well. So, video games cause mass shootings now, apparently. This isn't the first time this accusation's been levelled at video games, but the last time was like 20 years ago. Get a new shtick, seriously. There are no scientific studies that link video games or any other form of artistic expression to acts of mass violence. Anyone who tells you there is, I'm sorry to tell you, lying. There is no scientific study that supports this. And the White House is either about to meet or has already met, I think it is about to meet, the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, to discuss this.
Let me actually clarify something on that. They said that they've met with them, but then it turns out they lied that they were going to meet with them.
Is that the White House lying or the ESA? I'm really not surprised if it's either.
The White House lied about this.
That's less surprising, but I still wouldn't have been surprised if the ESA lied as well. The ESA aren't exactly bloody angels. But get a new scapegoat, seriously. As our pal, who's discussed quite often in this podcast, as Jim Sterling said, it's essentially a knee-jerk reaction by a group of people that I'm not going to name because I don't want this podcast to get completely firebombed. But it's a group of people that are so terrified of the response they might get from another group of people if they were to take their toys away or were to restrict the way in which they can play with their toys, that they have decided to go for the easiest, simplest, and most egregious target instead, which is video games.
I would like to also clarify that toys, in both situations, like these toys have like this massive difference, and that is that the toys on the one group are all about maybe killing not people that are not real or creatures that are not real, whereas the other toy has the potential to kill real frickin' people. Okay, and I'm not trying to bash on anyone who has a gun and goes for sport, because if you're a sports person, you go and shoot at a range and everything, great. Keep doing that. But lock the damn thing up. Put the ammo somewhere separately. I don't know what the hell. Register with 1 million authorities. Do that. Don't tell me that you need an arsenal of M16s, AK-47s, grenades, and all that bullshit that you can probably buy at any store in the corner in Florida. That this is a hobby, because that is not a hobby. That is a dangerous, dangerous situation.
Now, I was trying to be subtle and
no, it pisses
and
me
you've
off.
just come out and said guns. No, I'm completely with you. It angers me beyond absolutely anything. And I mean, we could get really down the political side of this. But I'm going to keep it as video game focused as possible because I could go really off on a tangent right now. But this is not the first time this has happened. This is not the first time that video games have been blamed for this level of violence, which is just not true. There's no studies that support it. Which, in all fairness, video games have been around for, if we are including the early video games, they've been around for like 50 years almost now. There's been enough time for scientific studies to be made and actual causal links made between these two things, but there haven't. And the reason there haven't is because there isn't one. There's not a causal link between violent video games and violent actuality. There's no causal link. Otherwise, science would have discovered it in 50 years. come on, we've invented the iPhone in the last 50 years. I'm pretty sure we would have been able to establish this link by now if it existed.
I think more people have died because like somebody used an iPhone to arrange a murder or a terrorist attack or something. We've created so many ways that we can murder each other. I think video games fall very low into that totem pole, to be honest.
And it's the other thing which really gets me. I cannot remember who said it. It was one of the officials in their Joker's gallery worth of of government, who actually said that violent video games are training people to do this.
That they're virtual boot camps. That's what the phrasing was.
Yeah, virtual boot camps. That was the term. Have they? I mean, it's evident they haven't. But have they ever played a Call of Duty game and seen how incomprehensibly different it is to play that game than it is to fire a real gun?
I'm gonna show you a skill.
I've done both.
I'm gonna show you a skill I learned in my virtual boot camp in Counter-Strike. Just watch this. If you're listening, simply you won't be able to see this. But this is like apparently if I crouch like this, I can aim better. And if I jump also like this crouching, I'll be able to shoot you better as well. So that's the skill I learned in my virtual boot camp, which was Counter-Strike years ago.
I think everyone should watch the footage of a mass shooting and see whether the shooter's doing that. Because if so, we found our causal link, people. We can put this to rest. But I would bet money that you won't, because you won't. Because it was the same person who said that in VR, the object they use to fire in VR has the weight and response of an actual gun. No, it doesn't. I've played VR. It is a piece of light plastic in each hand. That does not have anything to do with an actual firearm in terms of weight, in terms of size, in terms of distribution. None of it. None of it. Not at all. Not a single thing.
I'm so triggered.
I've used light gun games. Time Crisis, I will give you.
That's not even...
Time Crisis in the arcades when you had the G-Con 45 and that gun was weighty and it had a recoil and stuff. I will perhaps give you that. But there has never been a single instance, I'd need to look into this to verify, but I'm pretty certain, there's never been a single instance in which someone has gone into an arcade, played Time Crisis, and then gone out and shot a load of people in real life. Because there's just no link. It does not make sense because there is no link.
There have been studies where they monitored brainwave activity and all of that stuff, and they did it while people were playing violent video games. They didn't see any blips in the areas that signify anger or whatever it is that they were looking for there. So I don't know. We have to put this thing to rest. We put it to rest with movies a long time ago. TV shows. We're getting more and more violent TV shows right now, not just movies. Game of Thrones, such an example of this. Okay, and if you've watched Altered Carbon, which is amazing, by the way, we're not talking about that anymore. And yet, video games still seem to be being pushed into this direction and being used as a scapegoat. And this is where I'm gonna very, very publicly call out the Trump administration here and say, fuck off with this. You just don't want to deal with gun control. And that's too bad because you're in that position right now. You've put yourself in that position, Mr. President. And that's too bad for you. But our hobby, video games, have done nothing of the sort. And you're just showing right now how badly you're trying to backtrack and try to avoid these people who have paid for your campaign to not become the scapegoats in all of this mass shootings that have happening.
Oh yeah, and there's nothing that I'm getting more enjoyment out of at the moment, if I'm brutally honest, than all of the gamers that support him that are now coming out and saying, "Oh no, don't touch our video games." I and it's just like, what were you expecting him to do? Are you insane that you thought he would leave video games alone in this circumstance? Of course he was going to do it. It's the most predictable move in the book. And the reason I know that is because it's been trotted out so many times in my lifetime that it's become, if I'm honest, banal now.
And you know what? If he cares so much about this subject, I will call out one more time here, Mr. President. You've got so much money. Could you please take some of it, inject it into some proper research out there, and prove to me that there's a link? Go and fund a research on this. Put your money where your mouth is, and prove me wrong. Because so far, you have done nothing but talk. I'd like to see some action is all I'm saying. Anyway, we've been fuming enough, I think, Ruben.
I think so.
It's time to go to the colorful, happy land that only one company knows how to create for us and has been doing quite well for the past year, and that is Nintendo. And their amazingly at 1 year old now console, the Nintendo Switch.
Happy birthday, Switch.
By the way, there was a group on Reddit which showed they did a little Switch party during the 1 year anniversary, and they in a very fun way, they had a cake shaped as a Switch, and they had all of their Switches lined up, and they were singing happy birthday, more of a goof than anything else. And I have to say that weirdness should be celebrated more than anything else, and whoever's hating on that, shame on you. But yeah.
Yep, agreed. So yeah, it's been a year, isn't it?
Yes,
it's been a hell of a year.
An amazing year, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot fault the Switch at all for the year it's had. It has had, quite honestly, one of the biggest breakout years of in my opinion, probably any console ever.
Don't you just love this?
Because a lot of is that the yellow? That's the yellow ones.
The yellow ones. The arms. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, you got the arms Joy-Cons. But I mean, just to list a few games that the Switch has had over the past year. It's had Arms, Splatoon 2, Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, unfortunately Breath of the Wild. It's had, I'm sure I've missed one of the really major ones. As in Bayonetta. Bayonetta. It's had Bayonetta 1 and 2. It's had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which actually gave more changes to the 8 formula than I was expecting. Then not only that, it's seen countless indies. We've got Slime Sam, we've got The Sexy Brutale, and Night in the Woods.
Axiom Verge.
Stardew
Valley.
Stardew Valley. Then there's the slightly bigger titles. So you've got your I Am Setsunas. I Am Setsuna. Lost Sphere was launched on the Switch the same time it was launched on other consoles. I'm struggling to think of the other slightly bigger ones that it's had. It's had quite a few.
Fire Emblem Warriors.
Oh yeah, Fire Emblem Warriors. How did I forget that game? But it's had a phenomenal library in what is essentially a very short amount of time.
A breakout year, if anyone would ever call one a breakout year, it would be this one for the Switch. Lots of massive, amazing titles, and so many announcements to look forward to as well, but we'll get into that a little bit later. One of the things I want to discuss here is something that has been on people's minds ever since the announcements that came out of the mini Direct, which included things like the Dark Souls remaster, which you're so enthusiastic about.
You think?
Yep. The World Ends With You, and other games that seemingly are games that are older and they're just getting ports. And people have been concerned that is the Switch just a port machine at this point. And to that I say, why not? It's been doing pretty well for just a port machine, despite the fact that it has some really killer AAA titles on right now. We got Skyrim, we got Doom, we're getting Dark Souls, The World Ends With You, Bayonetta is one of those as well, Mario Kart 8. All of these are amazing games that either did massively well when they first came out, or they're games that didn't really shine much because they were on the Wii U. Why not bring them to the Switch? I mean, for me, for example, Skyrim, I never experienced it back when it came out. I'm having a hell of a time on it because it fits so perfectly with the whole handheld to TV console mentality that it has.
And also I completely forgot Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2.
Yeah, that too.
As well. I mean, I think you're completely right. There is nothing wrong with it being a port machine at all. I mean, my only issue with that is occasionally they will bring out a game on the Switch at far too high a price point. That's been a common complaint I've had about the Switch ever since it came out. Ultra Street Fighter 2 can do one.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
£35 for essentially a game I bought on the PS3 4 years ago for £12 with 2 additional characters that are both BS, like, and an additional mode which no one plays because it's awful. That is not worth £35, Capcom. Please do your math better. But apart from that, I do not see any reason. I mean, I'm very glad that Bayonetta 2 has had a second lease of life on Switch, because Bayonetta 2 deserved a lot more people to play it. Same goes for Mario Kart 8. A lot more people deserve to play that game because it is a really good Mario Kart game. Splatoon 2 is essentially Splatoon 1. So more people are getting to play that now, which I'm glad about because Splatoon is a great concept. Skyrim, Doom, all of these games that have come out on other consoles, but Nintendo fans would have missed. So they might have missed Doom, they might have missed Skyrim, and now they've got the chance to play it. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
And I just want to point out also that we're talking about all of this high praise despite the pricing, okay? Because pricing is always an issue with Nintendo, sadly. Yeah. But on all of this, we aren't really bashing on the online. I don't feel like the online play is being talked about as much quite yet, because I feel this is not what Nintendo's actual focus has been so far with the Switch. They wanted to make a solid device. And I think that that is something to respect because, you know, it's better to try and do one thing and do it well than to try and do multiple things very poorly. So that is not to say that the online isn't going to be important, especially when they decide to charge us for it.
I mean, the online until now has been absolutely awful.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely awful. I distinctly remember back not long after I got my Switch, you and I playing ARMS, and just Jesus. How inconceivably bad it was to try and play ARMS together online. And Mario Kart, as simple as that game is, lags. Splatoon 2 lags, and Splatoon 2 is the game you really do not want to lag. They are this year launching a couple of really big fighting game things on the Switch. Well, 3 actually, if we're being specific about it. They're going to need a better online interface, better online service, sorry, than they've got now. Because Third Strike, to use an example from the Street Fighter collection, that game is all about precision. If you lose that precision owing to massive amounts of input lag, you're not going to have a good time. Same will go with cross tag battles. Same will go with SNK waifus. It's they're gonna need to get a better online running for all of these good games they've got coming, because they've got some really good games coming. I mean, Dark Souls Remastered, for instance, if that has considerable lag, that's going to be insufferable in PvP. Absolutely insufferable.
Yeah, that's going to be terrible. And at the same time, it's also not just the infrastructure itself, it's also where the heck are the online features, man? I'm getting
Mm.
tired of going on Skyrim, then suddenly seeing you pop up like, oh, hey, your friend Ruben is playing, and me not being able to go tap, say hey, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
All under the banner
Um,
of we're trying to protect children, which is a noble cause, but, there are ways to get around to, deal with that.
yeah. It's just, yeah, it just, the online is the only issue I have with the Switch at the moment. It has a fantastic library. It's a great little console. The fact I can play it portably or at home on a big TV, fantastic. It's just the online. And at the moment, I'm not playing a massive amount of games that are online, so it's not a massive issue. It will become a massive issue this summer.
It will definitely be a massive issue, and that's why everybody's eyes right now are on everything that has to do with online, because now, after a year, I feel everybody is focused on whatever Nintendo's going to bring next to the console, but we're also focused on this impending charging of online services and the insistence of teasing us with journalists and people telling us like your minds are going to be blown by this, because this has been something that's been floating around on Twitter, that our minds are going to be blown when it comes to the whole online service they're putting together. Which the only thing I can think of at this point is the Netflix of Nintendo classics, which would be amazing.
Yeah, if they do that, if they do up to GameCube and it has a very robust library for every game, and they don't do the stupid drip feeding thing they've done with the previous consoles, that annoys me. Then bring it on, Nintendo. I'll be happy to see what you have to do. I'm just concerned. Nintendo have never been good with this whole online thing, and it worries me a little. It'll be great if they pull it off, but I will wait and see, I think.
I would love for them to see them do what Sony did, where Sony, when they first brought out the PS3, it had awful internet, although you could say it was serviceable to play with people. It's just that the general experience was not great, but that allowed them some time to refine it before PS4 came out, when they finally were able to create a much better online experience on the PS4 after they developed the know-how. The problem is that Nintendo is coming into this race a little bit too late. And the expectation is going to be, if you're going to charge me for this, because when Sony did all of that, they weren't charging for PSN. They started charging for PSN once they knew that they had a solid service to charge for.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Nintendo is going to be charging for us. Are they going to be as solid? That is going to be the $1 million question there.
I'm willing to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt. They've already massively surprised me with the Switch. I was incredibly skeptical of the Switch before it came out, and I'm now much more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt than I was before.
And we've got a lot to look forward to now as well when it comes to games. We've got Pokemon, which they've been insisting will come out this year. There's a rumor that we're going to see a Smash this year. And we've got some pretty cool indies coming out, where we got Hollow Knight on the way. Oh, what else do we got? Metroid Prime 4 too.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4. We've got The World Ends With You. We've got SNK Waifus, Cross Tag Battle, Dark Souls Remastered, Bayonetta 3, which I don't think is going to be until next year, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they've been working on it since Bayonetta 2, which I don't think they would have done, but if they have, then that's quite a long time. What else? I know I've missed quite a few. There's kind of strong rumors about Diablo 3 now.
Yeah.
which are from more trusted sources than the original rumor.
Yeah, so, Eurogamer said something about it, that don't listen to Blizzard, because this is what happened, is that Blizzard did that little Diablo thing, which was like a little nightlight switching on and off. which was, and then they said, no, it has nothing to do with Diablo 3 on Switch. We're not that clever, is what Blizzard said. But then Eurogamer came out and said, our sources say, don't listen to them. This is happening, guys.
Well, the thing is, I don't trust Activision Blizzard as far as I'd throw them. So I'm more likely to trust Eurogamer.
Okay.
Because Activision Blizzard, for Overwatch, they've lost all of my trust. Just the fact that game exists and has loot boxes in it and stuff. Yeah, I don't trust them at all. But yeah, we've just got so many games coming out this year. Let's not forget the Project Octopath.
Oh, there's that. Project Octopath is coming out. Got Kirby Star Allies coming out very, very soon. Hollow Knight, we've got... I think Bloodstained is coming out this year as well, and it's going to be on Switch too, which is one of those...
Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight.
The latest Shovel Knight expansion, the King Knight expansion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called King of Cards, I think. And I know there's one more major thing. Oh, what is Mega Man 11?
Oh yeah, there's Mega Man 11. There's all of the collections, and already Legacy. The Legacy collection has is coming out in May. I think it is that they said.
Yep, think so.
Yep. The only thing that Capcom is not bringing to the Switch is Monster Hunter World, which is it makes me sad, and they're not even localizing Double X, Double Cross, whatever it's called, which is sad, but okay. I mean, not everything needs to be on the Switch, which is something that the community has started to echo because of all of this, because people are now all saying, oh my god, this game would be awesome and that game would be awesome on Switch. While I understand the enthusiasm, I think we need to ease up a little bit.
Temper your enthusiasm. Not every game's going to come to Switch. And also, while we're at it, you people out there, you probably don't listen to our podcast, but if you do, the people that gave the dev of Hat in Time abuse because he wasn't bringing Hat in Time to Switch, get off your high horse and shut up. He is the developer of the game. If he doesn't want to, does not have the resources, or... Well, actually, no. Just leave the first bit. If he doesn't want to bring his game to Switch, he is under no obligation to do so.
There's truth.
Sit down, shut up, and play the other games you've got on Switch.
Because there are so many of them. I mean, that library is gigantic for a first year. That is the most impressive thing about it. So yeah, we have an amazing year to look forward to. A lot of new stuff to come out, and yeah, I absolutely can't wait. What about you?
I really can't wait to be. If I'm perfectly honest, it's all about Dark Souls Remastered.
That's gonna be fun for you.
The fact that comes out, if I'm not mistaken, that comes out the same day as another game. I think it's the Street Fighter Collection. That's gonna make that evening very difficult for me. And by difficult, I mean how quickly can I put Dark Souls into the Switch? Because there's not going to be another game that's going to beat out Dark Souls that's going to come out on that day. I love Third Strike, but Third Strike's nothing on Dark Souls. And Cross Tag Battles a week after, I think, and that's if we echo the US release date. It'll be a week after, which gives me plenty of time to enjoy my Dark Souls. I mean, actually, one thing we should applaud Nintendo for, they have finally made My Nintendo Points actually useful.
Oh, yes, finally. Yay, good job. After a year.
Yeah, after not only after a year, but after a year of still having Wii U rewards on My Nintendo. Essentially, they've made it now so that your My Nintendo Gold points can now be used against eShop purchases on Switch and 3DS, which is great. I mean, the way it works out is if you make a digital purchase on the eShop, you get 5% of the total cost of the game back as points. So, for instance, if you buy a £40 game, you get 200 gold points, and 200 gold points is worth £2 off your next purchase, which isn't really that bad. £40 to get £2 back, that's not too bad. It drops dramatically if you buy a physical game and register that physical game. It drops down to a really, really minimal percentage that you get back.
So they're encouraging eShop purchases, basically.
Yeah, they're encouraging eShop purchases, which makes sense because it's more expensive on eShop for reasons. But yeah, that's great in my opinion. It is really good.
I think it's an amazing idea, and it's gonna encourage people to buy games and to obviously, redeem some of their points to get some some games that maybe they're on the fence about, or maybe they're just not completely sure if they want to drop the money for, or just feel like, hey, I got an extra game as a bonus. It's always very nice, right? So
yeah, I've got like £3 worth of points that I'm going to use against A Night in the Woods. So
nice. That's always pretty cool. Right. So that's gonna do it. That's gonna be the show. So Ruben, got anything you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, why not? I'm on my normal streaming. I'm on my normal streaming stuffs. The only difference being that my Thursday stream, which is going to be a Street Fighter V Battle Lobby stream, is going to be starting at 7 instead of 6, and that's going to be all the Brighton FGC lot. It's going to be really fun. And then I'll be streaming on Saturday, a bonus extra stream, because your boy is returning to Yharnam.
Ooh, that's going to be nice.
Yes, I'm booting Bloodborne back up again. And I'm doing my kind of pre-mainstreams intro, in which I'm going to get a couple of bits that I need to get, and then I'm going to be streaming the entire game, the entire rest of the game, in co-op. So I'm going to use this stream on Saturday to get the bits I need to get, like the Madman's Knowledge and the Summoning Bell and stuff like that. And then my main stream will become Bloodborne from, I think, the last Sunday of the month. So there's going to be a bit of a gap, but then I'm going to be co-op streaming the whole game. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And also I'm going to attempt to, please don't hold me to this, but I'm going to attempt to write a 5 things you should know about Bloodborne before you start article for RueTheGamer.com as well, because
ooh, I want to read that,
because so many people go into that game blind, and there's only little bits of help you need, but there are little bits of help that you really need.
I totally agree, and I think I would absolutely need to read that before I carry on playing that game, if I ever. Right. As for me, I do my usual thing with my reactions, I'm playing Nier, and I'm playing Doki Doki these days for gaming stuff. I'm going to warn everybody ahead of time that I will be moving soon, so things might be a little out of whack. So if you see that some things are not being uploaded, there's things are not shared, or there's no Sunday stream, which probably there won't be a Sunday stream this week, unfortunately. Yeah, then you know why that's happening. But that means I'm going to new digs. I'm going to have a new crib, as they would say, and it's going to be totally off the hook. I'm trying to be really super trendy here. Right, in my old age. Right. So, where can we find you, Ruben?
All the normal places. RueTheGamer.com is where you can find pretty much everything, including links to all of my channels and all of my bits. But the main thing, if you want to see me chatting complete nonsense about games all day, RueTheGamer on Twitter. Yeah, I usually chat complete nonsense, so look forward to that.
Ooh, always love complete nonsense. You can also find Ruben on my Discord channel occasionally.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
With the link in the description below. Of course, you can also find me on Twitter over here. You can find me on my YouTube channel where you've found this podcast probably. Yeah, that's basically it. Right. So that's gonna be your gaming blast for the week. We both hope you have a great week of gaming, and we'll catch you next time.
See you soon.